December 19, 1944, Versailles, France. A jeep pulled up to the main gate of Supreme Headquarters. Inside were 3 American MPs. Clean uniforms, correct insignia, perfect English. The guard raised his hand. Password? The driver smiled. Patton. The guard hesitated. Something felt wrong. The uniforms were too clean, the accents too perfect. Where are you coming from? 3rd Army HQ. General Patton sent us with urgent documents for General Eisenhower. The guard stared at the driver. His eyes were nervous. His hands gripped the steering wheel too tight. Step out of the vehicle. When they searched the jeep, they found demolition charges, silenced Luger pistols, and hand-drawn maps of Eisenhower's office. They weren't American MPs. They were Otto Skorzeny's assassins, and they had been using Patton's name to get within 200 yards of the Supreme Commander. This is the story of the day Patton's name became a weapon in the hands of the enemy. Before we dive into this story, if you want more untold moments from World War II, hit that subscribe button. New videos every week. To understand what happened at that checkpoint, you need to understand the mission. And the mission started 3 weeks earlier, in a castle in Germany. December 1944. Hitler's situation was desperate. The Allies were pushing into Germany from the west. The Soviets were crushing them from the east. Hitler needed a miracle. He needed to split the Allied forces. He needed chaos. So he called Otto Skorzeny. Skorzeny was Hitler's miracle worker. He was the man who had rescued Mussolini from a mountaintop prison. He was 6'4", scarred from dueling, and absolutely fearless. Hitler trusted him with impossible missions. And this mission was the most impossible yet. Hitler wanted Skorzeny to send commandos behind American lines, dressed as Americans, speaking perfect English. Their orders were simple: cause confusion, cut communication lines, misdirect convoys, spread panic. But there was one more objective, one that Skorzeny didn't write down, one that he only told his best men in private: kill Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower was the supreme commander. He controlled millions of soldiers. He made the decisions that were crushing Germany. If he died, the Allied command structure would collapse into chaos. Officers would fight over who was in charge. The offensive would stall. Germany would get time. It was a long shot, but Hitler was gambling everything on long shots now. Skorzeny gathered his men. He needed soldiers who could pass as Americans, men who had lived in the United States, men who knew American slang, American jokes, American culture. He found about 150 commandos who were fluent, but only a dozen were perfect. These were the men he would send to kill Eisenhower. They trained for weeks. They studied American uniforms. They practiced American accents. They memorized the names of American generals, American units, American radio call signs. And they learned the passwords. Every day, the American military changed their passwords. But Skorzeny had spies. He had intercepted radio traffic. He had interrogated prisoners. And he had discovered something useful. The Americans loved using the names of their own generals as passwords: Montgomery, Bradley, Clark, and the name that appeared most often in Third Army communications: Patton. Skorzeny smiled when he heard that. Patton, the American general the Germans feared most, the man who never stopped attacking. Using his name as a password felt right. It was aggressive. It was bold. It was very American. Skorzeny gave his assassination team their instructions. If you get stopped at a checkpoint, use the name Patton. Americans trust that name. They respect that name. It will get you through. On December 16th, the German offensive began. The Battle of the Bulge tore through the Ardennes. American lines collapsed. Chaos spread. And in that chaos, Skorzeny's commandos slipped through. Small teams driving captured American jeeps, wearing perfect American uniforms, carrying forged documents. Most of them had minor objectives: turn a road sign, cut a phone line, spread a rumor. But one team had the big target. 3 men, the best English speakers Skorzeny had. They were heading to Versailles. They were heading to Supreme Headquarters. They were heading for Eisenhower. They drove for 2 days. They passed American patrols. They stopped at American checkpoints. Every time they used the same password: Patton, and it worked. Every single time. The American guards heard the name and waved them through. Patton's reputation was so strong that just saying his name opened doors. By December 19th, they were in Versailles. They were close. Eisenhower's headquarters was a guarded compound, but they had maps. They had studied the layout. They knew where his office was. They knew his schedule. All they had to do was get inside. They pulled up to the main gate. The guard stepped forward. He looked tired. He had been on duty for 12 hours. The Battle of the Bulge had everyone working double shifts. He raised his hand. Password? The driver didn't hesitate. Patton. But this guard was different. He had been briefed that morning. Intelligence had warned that German commandos were infiltrating American lines. They were using American uniforms. They were using American passwords. The guard looked at the jeep. The uniforms were too clean. Most American MPs had been in the field for weeks. Their uniforms were dirty, worn, muddy. These uniforms looked brand new. He looked at the men. Their accents were perfect, but they were too stiff, too formal. Americans were casual. They slouched. They joked. These men sat at attention like German soldiers. The guard's instincts screamed at him. Something was wrong. Where are you coming from? 3rd Army HQ. General Patton sent us with urgent documents for General Eisenhower. The guard stared at the driver. The story made sense. 3rd Army was 200 miles away. Patton often sent couriers to Eisenhower. It was plausible, but the driver's eyes gave him away. They were nervous, darting. His hands gripped the steering wheel too tight. He was sweating in the cold December air. The guard made his decision. Step out of the vehicle, all of you. The commandos hesitated. For just a second, that hesitation confirmed everything. The guard raised his rifle. 2 more guards appeared. Weapons raised. Out of the jeep. Now, hands up. The commandos knew it was over. If they fought, they would die. If they ran, they would die. They had one chance left. Surrender. Claim they were Americans. Hope the confusion would give them an opportunity later. They stepped out, hands raised. The guards searched them. American dog tags, American uniforms. Everything looked legitimate. But when they searched the jeep, they found what they were looking for. Under the back seat, demolition charges, enough to blow up a building. In a hidden compartment, 3 silenced Luger pistols, German weapons. In the driver's pocket, hand-drawn maps of Eisenhower's headquarters, showing his office, showing his quarters, showing the guard rotations. The lead guard grabbed the driver by the collar. "Who are you?" The driver tried to maintain his American accent. "I don't know what those are. Someone must have planted them." The guard switched to German. "Wer bist du?" The driver's face went pale. He didn't answer. "Take them to the holding cell. Get intelligence down here immediately." Within an hour, interrogators arrived. They separated the 3 commandos. They questioned them individually. And piece by piece, the story came out. They were SS commandos, trained by Skorzeny. Their mission was to kill Eisenhower. They had been told to use the password Patton to get through checkpoints. It had worked 6 times. It had almost worked a 7th. When Eisenhower was briefed, his face went white. He had been 200 yards away from assassination. If that one guard hadn't been suspicious, the commandos would have reached his office. They would have detonated the charges. He would be dead. Eisenhower's security chief immediately tightened protocols. No more single-name passwords. No more casual checkpoints. From that moment forward, every person entering headquarters would be interrogated, searched, verified. Eisenhower was furious, not just because of the assassination attempt, but because the Germans had weaponized American trust. They had turned Patton's name into a tool of deception. When Patton heard about it, his reaction was different. He didn't care that the Germans had used his name. He cared that they had gotten so close to Eisenhower. He called Eisenhower personally. "Ike, I heard what happened. Are you all right?" Eisenhower's voice was shaken. "I'm fine, George. They caught them. But it was close." Patton paused. "Did they really use my name as a password?" 6 times. It worked every time, until the last. Patton laughed, a dark, bitter laugh. "Well, at least the Germans respect me. Maybe I should be flattered." Eisenhower didn't find it funny. "This isn't a joke, George. They almost killed me using your name." Patton's tone changed. "Then let me make them pay for it. Give me permission to hunt down every one of Skorzeny's men. I'll make sure they regret using my name." Eisenhower didn't give him that permission, but Patton didn't need it. For the next 2 weeks, 3rd Army interrogators worked overtime. Every German prisoner was questioned. Any hint of American uniforms, American accents, American training was flagged. Patton's men became obsessed with finding Skorzeny's commandos. and they found them, one by one, small teams hiding in farmhouses, solo infiltrators pretending to be lost American soldiers. They were caught, interrogated, and executed. By early January, Operation Greif was finished. Skorzeny had sent 150 commandos behind American lines. Less than 20 made it back. The 3 who had tried to kill Eisenhower were tried as spies. Because they had worn American uniforms while conducting combat operations, they were not considered prisoners of war. They were considered unlawful combatants. They were executed by firing squad on January 15, 1945. Skorzeny survived the war. He was captured by the Americans and tried for war crimes. His defense was simple. He never ordered his men to fight while wearing American uniforms, only to infiltrate. Once combat started, they were supposed to remove the disguise. The tribunal believed him. He was acquitted. Years later, Skorzeny was asked if Operation Greif had been worth it. He smiled. "We didn't kill Eisenhower, but we made the Americans afraid of themselves. For 2 weeks, American soldiers stopped trusting each other. That fear was worth more than any bomb." Patton never forgot the day his name became a weapon. It bothered him, not because the Germans used it, but because it worked. He wrote in his diary, "My name should inspire courage in my men, not trick them into lowering their guard. The enemy turned my reputation into bait. That will not happen again." After the war, military protocols changed. Single-word passwords were banned. Soldiers were trained to verify identities through questions that couldn't be researched, questions only real Americans would know. Sports scores, movie stars, slang that changed every week. The lesson was clear. Trust is a weakness in war. And even the most respected names can be used against you. The guard who stopped the assassins was never publicly named. He received a commendation, a quiet award ceremony. No press, no publicity, just a handshake from an intelligence officer and a note in his file. But he saved Eisenhower's life, and he proved that suspicion, even in the face of a trusted name, is sometimes the right choice. The story of the Patton password is a reminder that in war, nothing is sacred. Not names, not reputations, not trust. The Germans knew that Patton's name carried weight. They knew Americans respected him. They weaponized that respect, and they came within 200 yards of changing history. If you were that guard at the checkpoint, and someone said the password Patton, would you have let them through, or would you have trusted your instincts? Let us know in the comments. And if you want to see the story of how Patton discovered Hitler's stolen gold in a salt mine, that video is next. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.